Hey folks, I'd like to say welcome to the channel, manly art, blah blah blah, something, but I don't have a name yet. Being I have a marketing background, I should probably come up with a name for this YouTube channel, but to me it's more important to make this content right now while it pops in my brain. So anyway, if this is your first time seeing this channel, my thought process behind it is, oh man, the generation of men we have coming up, the generation of males that we have coming up right now is a travesty. I mean, now granted, there are some pockets of males who are doing the right thing. I'm not saying overall we have a bad crop of railroad tracks, a bad crop of males coming up. So if you're one of those guys that is doing the right thing and living the life that you're supposed to be living and putting your best foot forward and being everything a man can be every day, my hats are off to you. But late 90s, early 2000s, there was a movie that came out which is fantastic, and if you've never seen it, it's called Fight Club. And one of the lines in that movie is, and this won't give any kind of spoilers away, but one of the main characters is talking to the other main characters, and he says, "We are a generation of men raised by women." And his generation, that generation, when that movie came out, it starred Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, and it was made in the late 90s, I say early 2000s, I can't remember exactly when, but their generation was the generation that came up in the 50s and 60s, maybe the 70s, but you had children who were raised by their moms, and their moms were teaching them how to be a man, and that's why and I don't know if this is a multi-generational problem, but that quote stuck out to me. And we've ebbed and flowed in the last 20-30 years to the point where we had a huge divorce upswing, and we had broken homes. The 80s and early 90s were a huge development of broken homes like we'd never seen before in this country, and that caused a lot of kids being raised in that generation to be raised by their mother, because absentee father, or the father was not the choice of the courts. So and I think you adapted and you overcame if you were one of those children as a man. And I've always said one thing you do as a guy is you grow up, and your father, for better or worse, you either embrace who he is and you become that man, or you look at your dad and you say, that's not the man I want to be, and you go the exact opposite direction. And for some people in my generation, they didn't have that option. They didn't have the option to look at their dad and say, that's the person I'm going to be, or not the person I'm going to be. But anyway, so the whole reason I said that whole spiel, because I look at the kids that are coming up today, and the parents who are raising them, and it bothers me that the gender identification thing, and you know what, if you believe that you can be a girl or a boy and change your mind and be the other person, be the other gender, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, probably shut this video off right now, go to the next video, go watch a cat hanging out of a tree, or a dog who can do backflips or something, because I'm probably going to make you mad. But that doesn't work. And the fact that as a culture we are allowing that, and as a culture we are stoking that fire and allowing kids to make their own decisions about what gender they are or how they feel. Now look, I've got a 4-year-old son, and he does some effeminate things sometimes. Like he's walked out of our room wearing my wife's high heels. He does some very flowy things. It's funny, but at no point am I looking at him going, well, maybe he's a girl. Huh. maybe he was born with a penis, but he actually is a girl. No. Okay? He's just doing what little kids do. I'm sure I did silly things like that when I was a kid. That doesn't mean that he identifies as a girl. So, gosh, gotta get a better camera mount. This thing's so shaky. So anyway, that is bothering me. And, you know, I could do a whole video about that, but I probably will at some point. But the reason I'm making this video today is it is February the 13th. Tomorrow is February the 14th. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, the most generic, made-up, crappy holiday there is. And, you know, I don't really apply to the thought of Valentine's Day, because you know what? You shouldn't pick one day out of the year to show your wife or your girlfriend or your significant other or whomever that you love them, okay? You shouldn't pick that one day to go buy them a present or a box of candies or roses or whatever. As a man, you should, and you know, this really applies to both genders and every other kind of relationship. You know, if you're gay and you have a significant other, this applies to you too. It applies to everybody who's in any kind of relationship. You should spend 365 days a year showing your significant other what they mean to you. You should spend 365 days a year treating them like most people treat their significant other on Valentine's Day. Oh, you're special. Oh, this is what I think of you. I got you a card that somebody else wrote that I signed my name to the bottom. No. You know what? To be a man or to be a loving significant other, spouse, whatever you want to call it, regardless of gender, you should 110% every day to your relationship. Is it hard? Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you right now, I've been married for 2011, 2018. I've been married for 7 years. You know what the hardest thing I've done in my entire life? Be married. It's hard. It's hard work. It is work. And it's not because my wife's a bad wife. It's not because I'm a bad husband. It's not because we have kids. It's just, it is. It's work. It's not easy. You're taking somebody you met and you're saying, I'm going to live with you. And we're two totally different people. I'm going to live with you and we're going to make things work. We're going to start a family. Constantly do I annoy my wife and does she annoy me? Constantly. It's not because we don't like each other. It's not because we're not fit for each other. It's just because you're two totally different people, raised by two totally different sets of parents in two totally different households. You were instilled with different values. You were taught to do things different way. Something as silly as folding a towel. You were taught to do it one way. Your wife was told to do it another way. Guess what? You do it two different ways, and for some reason that will annoy you. For some reason that will annoy your wife. And it might get to the point to where she thinks you're being malicious about it and trying to sabotage the way you do things so she doesn't, so you don't have to do them. And that's not the truth. And maybe there's some men, I have met men before who said, I legitimately screw up the laundry so that they don't make me do it. Is that being a good man? Is that being a good husband? No, it's not. But you know what? The best thing you can do in that situation is tell your wife, to talk to your spouse and say, look, I generally don't like doing laundry. It's not that I think you deserve to do laundry, because no one loves doing laundry, but you say, look, I just don't want to do it, and I'm going to do other things to make up for that. I'm going to mow the grass. I'm going to weed eat. I'm going to change the oil in your car. I'm going to do these things. Now, granted, I'm probably talking about some things that some people viewing this video have never done and maybe never will. Maybe you're an apartment dweller and you don't have a yard to mow. Maybe you don't own a lawnmower. Maybe you don't know how to mow. Once again, I know plenty of males, who don't know how to do these things because no one taught them and they had no interest in learning. So anyway, have a conversation with your spouse. That's the one thing that we lack in this world. And that's the biggest part about being a man, is you got to be willing to talk. You got to be willing to have a conversation. My dad was one of the quietest people you'll ever meet. And he didn't communicate at all with my mom or my stepmom. And bless their hearts, they made it work. Well, my stepmom did anyway. But you know, you got to communicate. As a man, you've got to learn to communicate in this life. You've got to communicate with your wife. That's part of being a man. That's part of being, if you think you're strong enough to be married, if you think you can get married, you have to learn to man up and do these things, communicate. So anyway, that's my rant for the day. Valentine's Day, it's a sham. Not saying you shouldn't buy your wife something, your girlfriend, your husband, your male counterpart, your life partner, whatever. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying don't use Valentine's Day as a bridge for your inability to be the person you're supposed to be the rest of the year. Treat your significant other like they deserve to be treated 365 days a year. Valentine's Day is not an excuse to be a poor man, a poor person the rest of the year. You can't say, well, I got you that Hearts on Fire Kiss by K's necklace for Valentine's Day, so that allows me to be an asshole for the rest of the year. It's not an excuse. Do what you're supposed to do. Man up. That's my rant. Happy Valentine's Day. See you next time. And I promise, next video, I plan on actually having a title and a direction for this channel. Thanks. Bye.